Nick has announced in a press conference yesterday, his press event, that he's forming a third-party line. It's called Upstate Jobs, the Upstate Jobs Party, which, if he gets the signatures, will place him on the ballot in November. Martin, good morning.
Good morning, Bill. Thanks for having me.
This is big. First of all, I want to ask you, you're going to be, you're on the ballot in November. You get these signatures, you're there. You're going to have the Democrat, who we've heard very little from, and that'll be coming after these primaries are over. But you have this big Republican primary coming up. Tenney, Wells, and Phillips. Okay, here you go. Which one do you want to face?
Bill, I'm not worried about trying to pick who I'm going to face. The voters will decide that in the primary. I'm just concentrating on my message, and that includes getting the word out about jobs and realizing that there's a very different path that we can go about restoring our economic vitality here. So I don't worry so much about the other candidates running. We'll wait and see what happens in the primary, and the Republican voters will decide, and we'll take it from there.
You know, it's interesting that in a normal year, people would say that a run like this, a third-party run, your chances of having any success, very slim. This year, however, does seem to be different. Do you get, obviously you have that feel, you're willing to spend a lot of money on this.
Well, there's no question, Bill, that when I started this process back in March, the dynamics of this particular election cycle were top of mind. And if this was a normal year, you are absolutely right. It would make no sense to try a third-party run. But it's not only what's going on in our presidential cycle that we can see the frustration and anger of the voters and the fact that the party leadership on both sides of the aisle have created a degree of frustration within the voter base. I mean, that is a big opportunity, and one that I believe, with the presidential cycle that is going on, is going to have a higher voter turnout. And as you know, when larger numbers of people turn out, that includes many that are not necessarily strongly partisan, and it is my belief that they'll be looking to cast their vote for the best candidate ahead of just a party label, and that works to the advantage of a third-party candidate.
You'll need to get some 3,500 signatures in order to get on the ballot, and that process is just about to begin here and getting underway. So a lot of work. You feel confident you're going to be able to get out there and get those signatures and get on the ballot?
Yeah, this is actually easier than you might think.
Right, because you can get, and as long as they haven't signed, you really can get anybody.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
So this is not going to be that difficult to get the 3,500 signatures. That being said, it is also an opportunity to help spread the message and get people engaged, because it's our belief that with this line we're creating called the Upstate Jobs Party, it's an opportunity for people to actually step up and be part of the process and put our resources towards something that we know is so important for everyone in this district.
And I'll ask you why you're doing this. You're very successful. You've before we get to the why, tell us about how you became successful, self-made, what you've done and what your company does, and how you've made your money.
Well, I'm a lucky guy from having grown up here in the Mohawk Valley with blue-collar roots. My dad worked in local factories, and we were a very typical family here in the Valley. Parents raised 7 children, and after community college, Herkimer County Community College, and then college in Pennsylvania, and then I worked as a civilian with the Navy, helping to support Navy communities and Navy exchanges. But my last assignment with Navy exchanges landed me in the San Francisco Bay Area. And as I went out to find a job and couldn't find anybody to hire me because I had worked for the government too long, and that put me on this path of deciding to start a company. But what I didn't realize when I began that journey in 1988 was that I happened to be in the most entrepreneur-supporting place on the planet. I can look back at that now in retrospect and say that if I had tried to start my company, TriNet, in upstate New York, with what I knew back then, same guy, same idea, same everything, but just here instead of there, I would have failed.
Interesting.
And the reason is something that now, over the years of not only having built a company in Silicon Valley that has offices all over the U.S., and the nature of what that company does is help small companies, small businesses, mid-sized companies with all of their responsibilities of being an employer. In fact, Trident's considered a professional employer. So we have a lot of technology, a lot of people on the ground, a lot of different systems that help support that. And we've helped a lot of businesses grow over the years. We have over 10,000 customers today. But when I say that I couldn't have been able to build that same company in upstate New York back then with what I knew, that's because in Silicon Valley, successful entrepreneurs, after they sell their company or take it public, instead of retreating into the shadows and being hard to locate, successful entrepreneurs there are giving back to the next generation. I was a beneficiary of that even back then.
Yeah.
And that's what goes on all over in the United States, where you see pockets, you see communities that actually have thriving new industry companies. It's because there are entrepreneurs that are giving back and helping that next generation. So 6 years ago, I started a nonprofit, Upstate Venture Connect, which has that as its mission of having first-time entrepreneurs who really do need that help. And we have so many smart people spread across this district coming out of our universities and people that maybe didn't even grow up here but take a shine to this area as they go to school here and see the great quality of life that we enjoy. And through this nonprofit, we have created a network that now numbers 10,000 people across all of upstate who help support these entrepreneurs and get them connected to the resources that can make a difference in their starting companies and growing their businesses, thereby creating jobs. So over the last 6 years, this has been my full-time effort as a volunteer, and I've learned a ton, and we've made a difference, and I believe laid the foundation for creating thousands of jobs across the region. And when Richard Hanna announced that he would be stepping down just before Christmas, a move that I was not expecting, certainly was not preparing to run for Congress. But with all the circumstances flying about, not only the fact that it would be an open seat, but the dynamics of what's going on in this election cycle, and the fact that, quite frankly, I'm tired of the hollow promises our politicians keep making that they're going to create jobs, when in fact they keep doing the things they've been doing for the last 30 years. They make the promises and they cut these deals with large corporations that, they can stand in front of a factory that they hope is going to open, have a ribbon cutting, and that's their idea of job creation. And that's not how it works in the real world. So that's what drove me to come forward and say, I've spent a long time helping other people create companies and jobs, and I believe that by being in Congress, I have an opportunity to not only spread that message throughout the region and get more people adopting these principles that can make a difference in creating jobs, but also influence my fellow legislators, people in Congress, and those throughout New York State on the same path.
I want to quickly just ask you a couple quick questions on your beliefs, where you stand, what kind of congressman you would be, who you would be. When it comes to a woman's right to choose, where are you on the abortion issue?
Well, I'll say in general, Bill, at this stage of the campaign until the primary is over, I've been concentrating on getting my jobs message out, since that's really what I want people to focus on, what I have to offer. In the coming weeks, we're going to be putting out positions on a number of other issues. So I'm not going to kind of go down a checklist of all issues on the social side, because it's really the issues on job creation and economics where I'm trying to focus. But I will say on that particular issue of right to life, as a devout Catholic, that's an issue that, believe me, I am 100% pro-life and will remain that way.
All right. Manesky.
Just if I could follow up on that one point, do you think that it matters? I mean, there's a Supreme Court ruling. Does it matter if a candidate or if a representative is pro-life or pro-choice? Because are there bills that are actually voted on? Does it matter what you are?
It is the settled law of the land, and that is certainly a point that is not lost on me. And it's also an observation that throughout this district, what voters are really more concerned about than the social issues are the issues of what are we doing to create jobs and keep our best talent here instead of having to wave goodbye to them after they graduate from college. So that's why at this stage of the game, keeping the focus on the issues that are most important to the voters is what I intend to do.
I want to ask you one final question, and again, back to what kind of congressman would you be if elected in November? And put yourself in Richard Hanna's shoes. The congressman was one of the few that voted not to shut down the government back last year. Where would you have been on that, and what are your thoughts on that vote?
I can't replay the exact scenario and say that in the future we're going to be in the same scenario, but what I can say is that I have a history of being collaborative and also not being afraid to make up my own mind in the face of what could be pressure from different sides. And quite frankly, as the opportunity to run as an independent, I actually will have more ability to make the right decision because I don't have to be beholden to anyone except the voters. So that was a fundamental reason why I decided to go down this path as an independent, and I believe that gives me some strength and some opportunity to do the right thing.
All right. You'll be knocking on doors over the next
Absolutely.
Next
You're
few
going to
weeks.
see me all over the district, not just the Mohawk Valley, not just Utica Rome, but as you know, when we launched the Upstate Jobs Party yesterday, our first press conference was in Binghamton, an area that's very important for the district and one in which we continue to have an active and growing presence.
One last thing. You are self-funded. You're funding this campaign?
I am the primary funder. I've also had support of many individuals who believe in my candidacy, but I have gone on record in saying that I'm declining special interest contributions, PAC money, because I believe that's a corruptive influence in the process, and another thing that I hope to change is once I'm elected.
Martin Babinec, a name you are going to hear a lot of over the course of the next several months. So thanks for taking the time this morning.
All right, Bill, and I hope the listeners will have a chance to visit the upstatejobs.org website and hear about this new party and join the process.
Do you have children?
We have 3 children.
Happy Father's Day is what I didn't want to say it if you didn't have kids, but happy Father's Day.
Likewise to you, Bill. I know you have kids as well.
Thanks so much. All right.
Bye-bye.
Martin Babinec, got a break. Hold on, coming back at WIBX. We're going to do a little free money chance here, $300 on the line. It would be awesome to give away another $300 here this morning. We gave away $300 in the 6 o'clock hour. Let's do it again. Hell, it's Obika's money, right? Coming right back at WIBX.